Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's warm tonight. We almost had some rain and then we didn't. So I'm very, very shiny and I'm trying to get used to this. Because if you're like me, if you grew up in, I don't know, if you went to school in the early 90s, the worst thing in the world you could be was shiny. Basically, we all had this powder we put on our face to try and make it all sort of matte and get rid of the shine. And so you can imagine my surprise today to go online and find this thing called, what is it, glass skin? Glass skin, I think it's like a K-pop kind of fashion trend or something, where people try to make their faces look as shiny as possible to the point where they look wet, positively wet. And I don't know, I'm still trying to get used to that. It's not a bad thing, but you know, growing up in my own generation, it's something that takes a minute to get used to. Right, so this evening, what I'm about to do, and I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but long-time viewer, Kia Grace, hello. She's given me a video she'd like me to react to called Why You Should Not Move to Rwanda, The Ugly Truth by No Limit Eddie. You can see why I'm a little bit uncertain about tackling this one. So it sounds like it's going to be an outpouring of rage and disgust at Rwanda. I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to want to react to this, but let's go and have a little look. You know me, I do grumble now and again, quite a bit, especially about paperwork and business administration here. But you know, I also love the country. I wouldn't have been here for so many years if I didn't. So let's get into it. Okay, so this is the video. Rwanda is not for everyone. Right off the bat, I don't know, I'm just looking because under his bio it comes up learn to make money online. That's like the link in his video information. So like automatically I'm thinking he's like a crypto bro or something. Maybe he's a little bit kind of, I don't know, a bit of a grifter. I don't know. I've formed an opinion without even having watched anything, just from the link in his bio. Oh, but underneath that we've got Theo. We love Theo. Theo, I don't know, I think he follows me. I follow him. But yeah, I mean, Theo is the OG. He is the guy. He's Rwandan diaspora. I think he came from Belgium and he moved here. He opened a gym. And he is the guy, the first person I ever saw do a video, the first person most people ever saw do a video that was actually critical of like trying to do business in Rwanda. Actually, no, what was it? Customer service. He did this incredible skit about customer service. I'll leave the link below. It's hilarious. We were all kind of watching it going, so yeah, he's like, Theo, I don't know, he kind of came out of nowhere and he did these videos and everybody was watching them just because he talked about Rwanda as sort of a reality, rather than kind of a glossy tourism video. He talked about what it was like to move here, to start a business here. He was an inspiration, still is. Right, okay, I don't think he uploads very much anymore though, but let's get into this, shall we? Why you should not move to Rwanda. Right. Roll credits.
I tried living in Rwanda for 60 days in 3 different cities.
He tried living here for 60 days in 3 different cities. So what he's saying is he didn't really settle in any one city, get to know the people, get to know the way of life. I don't know. 60 days is what, 2 months in lots of different cities. So basically he toured around the country for 2 months.
And in today's video, I'm going to give you my honest opinion on how it was. And if I think it's...
Buriogo, that's the car-free zone in Nyamirambo where you walk down and you have the food.
Opinion on how it was. And if I think it's worth it for you to travel or even move there. Shalom, my name is No Limit Eddie. I'm an American who moved to Africa at just 21 years old. And I've documented the last 5 years of my travel journey right here on this YouTube channel, to make your move to Africa even easier.
Okay, this could be interesting because I'm really interested in hearing about different countries in Africa, because every now and again I wonder what it would be like to move. I think, like a lot of people, I've had this deep-rooted curiosity about Namibia. Just like the landscape there looks incredible, like where the desert and the sea actually meet. And it's the opposite of Rwanda. Is it's completely underpopulated. So like you can hire a camper van and drive out into the middle of nowhere and see no one. And when you live in a heavily densely populated country where you can't step out your door, you can't go into the countryside without being surrounded by people all of the time. It appeals to the village girl that's still inside me. I'm not a city girl, which is why I complain so much about all the building work in Kigali. You know, I'm a country girl at heart. And you know, I sometimes wonder what it might have been like if I'd moved to a different country in Africa.
Okay, so I want to do something that I never do in any of my other videos, and that is give a disclaimer. Okay, because I have heard that the Rwandan government does watch YouTube videos. So
I have a story about this, and one day I will tell it. But at the moment,
what I want to say is like this is not a
but they do watch YouTube. Hi.
Rwanda hate video. More so, this is me talking about the things that I didn't like from my own experience while I was in the country of Rwanda. And the main purpose of this video is to edify other African Americans who are thinking about visiting or moving to the country of Rwanda. So I don't want any smoke with the Rwandan government. All right, let's get into it.
And that's a fair disclaimer. That's a fair disclaimer. And he's made that disclaimer, and I am just reacting to his reactions, so you know, I think we're safe going forward. This is why I was a little uncertain about, you know, reviewing this video, because I was waiting to see what the tone would be, whether it be like or whether it would be kind of a calm and considered review of the country, which it appears to be. So I think we can carry on.
Con number one. So I have a meeting to go to super early in the morning in Kigali. So I decide to call a ride to my destination. The moment
Nah, all right, I'm going to skip this one because I know where this is going already. It's about you cannot, I bet his complaints are going to be, one, you can't get a ride, like you try and call the companies and you can't get a ride, and two, when you do get a ride, they have no idea where they're going. We've done this in a couple of videos before. I'll leave a link up here if you want to know more about the problems of booking taxis and things. I'm not going to cover this particular complaint because we've already covered it actually more than once. I'll leave those videos below if you're interested in the unique challenges of trying to get around Kigali. For a very, very small city, it's remarkably difficult to get across as a tourist.
So I decide to call a ride to my destination. The moment a driver accepts your ride, what they're going to do is call you and they're going to ask you, where are you at right now and where are you going? So I get that call and he's speaking Kinyarwanda, which I don't speak that language. So I'm trying to ask him if he can speak English. And the moment he realizes that I only speak English and he only speaks Kinyarwanda, click, he hangs up. And a second later, I see a notification on my app. Your driver has canceled. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, that was a weird driver.
Okay, I'm still watching this because that wasn't what I thought he was going to say. I was premature. But it's kind of interesting because this morning I had somebody calling up to ask if we did brunch. And I started to reply. They asked me in English and I was replying in English. And literally the end of it, there was like, no thank you very much, no goodbye. It was just click and they hung up. And I think I was talking English a bit too quickly and they just kind of panicked. Yeah, that can happen. I mean, you know, that's fair. I mean, it is terrifying to try and talk on the phone in another language, but you could at least say, you know, oh, can you repeat, or could you say slower, or, you know, but no, hanging up is also a valid response.
Your driver has canceled. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, that was a weird driver. It was a one-off case. Let me go ahead and try this again. So I order another driver. I answer the call. I try to speak Swahili, like ongea Kiingereza, which means, do you speak English in Swahili? He doesn't speak Swahili either. Click, he hangs up. And then a second later, I get a notification on the app, your driver has canceled. This process repeats to the point where I realize, okay, I leave my...
I wonder if he was using Jaeger or Move, but I assume it's much of a muchness.
And then a second later, I get a notification on the app, your driver has canceled. This process repeats to the point where I realize, okay, I leave my house, I leave my Airbnb, I go on the street, I call the driver, and I hand the phone to a random lady on the corner.
That
And
was quick thinking.
she then directs the driver to come and get me. And this is why my first con about the country of Rwanda is English is not widely spoken. Now, don't mistake this for me being an arrogant American who feels that people should speak English.
No, he's very right. He probably doesn't know, but it was only like a couple of decades ago the country made this massive switch. So it was a francophone country, majority francophone, so Kinyarwanda, then French, and then overnight the entire education system switched in one go over to English, and French was banned. Now it's kind of dual, so it's Kinyarwanda, French and English in classrooms now. But really, the idea was that in one generation, a whole group of young people would suddenly learn to speak English. But the problem, of course, is that the teachers who were teaching English didn't really know English themselves because they were francophone, and you can't really expect teachers to suddenly learn English perfectly and start teaching English really well. So, you know, people have grown up learning very broken English from what their teachers knew, especially out in the villages. And English is not really, we really do jump the gun a lot here sometimes. Like, we're very big on promotion and press. And so, you know, it says on the flyer that the official languages of Rwanda are Kinyarwanda, French, English and Swahili. Now, when you hear the word official language, you assume that means that the entire country uses all of those official languages quite well. But it tends to be more that the official languages here are just the languages that some people speak some of the time. So most people speak a little bit of French, most people speak a little bit of English, some people speak a little bit of Swahili, but Kinyarwanda is really still the mainstay language. And the other languages are not really taught or spoken very well to sort of a very functional degree. So yeah, you regularly get people calling and trying to speak in Kinyarwanda, and if that doesn't work out, often the line goes dead. Public services as well, it can be very, very difficult to kind of get your message across. It's getting better. I mean, in Kigali city it is getting better, but if you come from a fluently English speaking country, I have a friend from Kenya, you know, I have friends from Uganda, I even have a friend from Cameroon, and Cameroon is traditionally a francophone country, but he speaks English like very, very well. It's his preferred language. And they all say, you know, in Rwanda, English, it's hard to get by. And you also meet a lot of people from Quebec, so Quebecois, sorry, I can't say that very easily, who are francophone, and you have people from France saying the same about French, is it's very hard to get by. You know, people don't really speak it to a very easily engageable degree. I don't want to say easily fluent, because I think they're fluent in their own communities in that language, but when it comes to an international level of communication, not so much. For me, I don't really struggle. I get by quite well in English. I don't know what it is. I have a way of being understood and communicating most of the time. And if I don't, I know enough Kinyarwanda to kind of explain that I don't and to figure it out with somebody. Yeah, I mean, it can be frustrating. I think how slow communication becomes when English, French, you know, and in his case Swahili, you have to really slow communication down a lot to make sure that things are understood. And so I think the speed or the lack of speed in communication can get a little bit frustrating. But anyway, moving on. Yeah, it's although that we've got 4 official national languages, really Kinyarwanda is the language. And English is trying, but it won't be like you find in Kenya, Uganda. It's not quite fluid. I won't say fluent, I'll say fluid.
Now, don't mistake this for me being an arrogant American who feels that people should speak English because I'm an American and they need. No. If you were to be a tourist to the country of Rwanda, before you book your flight, you're going to ask, do they speak English in Rwanda?
And the other thing that I will say on his behalf here is every country needs a lingua franca, an international lingua franca, which is a common language for business. Swahili, I believe, is a lingua franca. It developed from a need to communicate between Arabic-speaking countries and Bantu-speaking countries for trade. Today, English is that lingua franca, mostly. I mean, French, Spanish, yes, across the world, South America especially. Chinese is a lingua franca for many countries in Asia. But English is an international lingua franca. And if you're engaging in tourism, you're engaging in international business and communications, you have to have a lingua franca, which doesn't mean that people in rural villages have to know English. I don't think anybody's expecting that. But what people are expecting is that when you come to a capital city, that it's going to be easier than it is to get around, especially as he says, that we list English as a national language, and yet very few people speak it proficiently. I will say younger people are different. I mean, there are young Rwandans nowadays. I met a guy working at the MTN service centre the other day. Flawless English, flawless. Actually, I met a girl the other day, I'm not kidding you, it floored me. She not only spoke English perfectly, but with an English accent, to the degree where I asked, I said, where in England are you from? And she just said, oh, around. And I was like, that's a really weird answer to give. Like, I was looking at her thinking, oh, she's British. She's clearly British. Turns out she wasn't British at all. She was Rwandan, had never left the country, but had a British English teacher. And whilst learning English, she learned to pronounce English with her teacher's English accent. And I would have put money on the fact she was from London. I would have put money on the fact she was a Londoner. You know, and when I found out she wasn't, I was like jaw on the floor, like, huh? So it's changing. Younger Rwandans really are catching up fast, but they're learning it from movies and they're learning it from, I suppose, some of them books. Rather than from the Rwandan education system, because I don't think there are that many proficient English teachers in the country. I don't think your average science teacher out in, I don't know, out in the wilds of Rubavu is going to be able to teach you English to a proficient level. I could be wrong, but I think that there is definitely an understaffing of English teachers in the country. Right, where did we get to?
Do they speak English in Rwanda? And Google's going to tell you, yes, they speak English in Rwanda. And that's a true fact because officially English is a language of the country of Rwanda. But the reality on the ground is very different. I would say around 70% of people that I came into contact with while in the country did not speak the language of English. Now, this is also a problem because, like, Rwanda is heavily marketing itself to English-speaking tourists. They're sponsoring the Los Angeles Clippers. If you don't know,
They've done what?
Oh wow, okay, so we're not just that. We've just finished sponsoring Arsenal Football Club, and we're now sponsoring Aston Villa Football Club, Premier League football clubs in the UK. So they're also doing it in America, and promoting heavily to football fans, English-speaking football fans. I think that could be worthy of a video all of its own, because, you know, as a Brit, I have a few thoughts on this. But yeah, if you want to see a video about that, about the idea of sponsoring Premier League football clubs as a way of getting tourists, let me know. We can certainly have a bit of a chat about that. But for now, let's just see what he's saying.
Itself to English-speaking tourists. They're sponsoring the Los Angeles Clippers. If you don't know, Los Angeles is where I'm from. Okay, and growing up, I used to love the Los Angeles Clippers back when they had Blake Griffin and Chris Paul and Jamal Crawford. And so they're marketing to American basketball fans. Okay.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I thought that was a football club. I don't know anything about basketball. Basketball is a very American sport. My Canadian friend loves it. She goes to watch the basketball matches. Sorry, I thought it was a football club. I just assumed. I'm sorry.
They're marketing to American basketball fans. Okay, people like me. They're also marketing. They have they're sponsoring some soccer jersey, but they're marketing a very famous football team with Visit Rwanda logo on the side sleeve. And if you don't know, that's a British football team. So they're marketing to again what English speaking tourists. And so it's a problem when you come to the country.
I'm going to say this as a Brit, not just are they marketing to British football fans, to British tourists, but a certain demographic of British tourists who are not traditionally known for speaking slowly when they are not understood. I don't know how to put that another way. Let's just say, as a Brit, I can definitely see that demographic going to family-friendly places like Costa del Sol. Beer's cheap, food's cheap, there's a beach, there's stuff for kids to do. I can see that. But I don't know, I just, I don't know how many would, go to a country where you've got to take malaria prophylactics, landlocked Central Africa, and facing language issues. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I personally have never met a single person here yet who came here because they were an Arsenal supporter and they wanted to see what Rwanda was like. I'm sure there are. And if you visited Rwanda because you're British and you saw like the Visit Rwanda thing on the sleeve and you went, oh, let's go and check out Rwanda, I'd love to hear from you. I'm not saying it never happens, but as a Brit, I can't see it happening very often. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, maybe the statistics completely counteract me, but I just think as a demographic, I don't know, I have a hard time imagining it. Anyway, I'm going to be quiet. I think that's probably for a whole other video.
English speaking tourists. And so it's a problem when you come to the country and people are not speaking English. Con number 2. So I'm in Gisenyi, right, which is the 3rd most populated city in the country of Rwanda, if I'm not mistaken. And I was just staying in a very beautiful lake house Airbnb, but today's checkout day. So I got on my bag, I'm standing in the driveway.
Okay, my money here is on, he went to check out and the card machine doesn't work, he couldn't pay to check out. That's happened to me a lot in hotels. You go to check out, the POS machine, the network's down, you have to go into town, try and find an ATM, try and get the money out, come back, pay by money. That's what my money's on.
But today's checkout day. So I got on my bag, I'm standing in the driveway. A lot of the staff that was working on the Airbnb property to help me carry my bags, and they're still kind of standing around waiting for me.
Oh no, that can't be it. If he checked into Airbnb, he's already paid online, hasn't he? Okay, so what's the problem? I'm really enjoying this video. I'm enjoying this a lot more than I thought I would. I'm engaged.
Working on the Airbnb property to help me carry my bags, and they're still kind of standing around waiting for me. So I'm like, okay, perfect. I get on my app, right, to call a ride to take me to, I had another Airbnb in the city. And as I get on our app, instead of getting a message that says your ride has been accepted, I get a message that says, this app does not work in your area. So I have to then ask Airbnb host if she has a driver that she knows that can take me to my next place. And thankfully she did. And that was how we went from one destination to the next. So this brings me on to con number 2, which is Uber is not available. You see, in the country of Rwanda, you only have 2 transportation apps, okay, that actually
Yago and Move.
Yago and VW Move.
Yeah.
Yago was an app that gave me so many issues in the first story, like I couldn't get a driver.
Yeah, I've said before, I'm going to skip over this bit. I've said before, we've covered Uber before. Uber isn't here. There are varying reports. Like there's this one story that goes Uber applied to be here and the government went no because they wanted to protect local taxi drivers. And then there's another story that Uber came here, thought that the market was too small and so didn't end up coming. So I don't know which one of those 2 is true, but yeah, either way, whatever. We don't have that. We don't have Bolt. But I'm going to just put this way, right? If we did have Uber, we'd have the same drivers who also wouldn't know where they're going, who also still wouldn't speak English, who also, wouldn't be able to find you on a map. You know what I'm saying? It's not about which app you're using, Move, Yago, Uber, Bolt, it would be the same drivers. And until the drivers have training, I've said this before in my videos, is they need to bring in the knowledge. Like in London, a London black cab driver has to pass a test to be a black cabbie. They're not allowed to use GPS. They have to memorize the roads in London. And London is a massive, massive city, massive. And they need to be able to learn the routes through London and to answer that in a test. Kigali is a tiny city by comparison. There are very few places that international tourists are going to want to go. They're going to want to go to a couple of hotels, a few restaurants, maybe a few people's houses, might get a bit more tricky, but there should be at least some basic standard that you have to pass to be able to drive a taxi or a moto, whereby a tourist asks you to take them somewhere and you can take them there because you know where it is. So all I'm saying here, it's not a problem with the app. I hear what he's saying. Wouldn't matter if Uber was here. You're still not going to get somebody turning up on time. You're still not going to get somebody who speaks English. You're still not going to get somebody who knows where things are. So I get his argument, but I don't think it would make a difference.
Yago was an app that gave me so many issues in the first story, like I couldn't get a driver that spoke English. VW Move is a much better service and it's much more effective. However, both of those apps only work in Kigali, and I feel like Yago barely even works. But the moment you leave the main city of Kigali and you go to Musanze or you go to Gisenyi, both cities that I was in, those apps don't function, those apps don't work. And it's weird because those are the next two biggest cities, and there's a lot of activities that tourists want to do.
No, there's only one city in Rwanda, and that's Kigali. After that, it's sort of towns. I wouldn't class them as cities. They are, by comparison, every other city in Rwanda is seriously underdeveloped, like in terms of social things to do. I mean, there isn't a cinema in Kigali anymore, like a proper cinema. There isn't a national theatre. There are so many things missing from Kigali that you would expect to find, like certain museums and things like that. You'd expect to find in a capital city, and we don't have those yet in Kigali. Beyond Kigali, they are suburbs. There's really nothing much to do. You go there on your way to see gorillas or wildlife, or if you want to get out of town and have a very quiet weekend. But, they don't have infrastructure in that way. Yeah, it's everything happens in Kigali, which is why Kigali is getting so crowded and overpopulated. There are so many people in Kigali now who are fed up with the cost of living, fed up with the traffic jams every day, and will very, very happily move to Musanze. I would quite happily move to Gisenyi if there was anything there, but there isn't. So it's kind of, that's the problem. If the government is trying to get people to move out of Kigali by upping the price of rent and making everything expensive, and Kigali cleaning fee and taxation to try and discourage people from moving here, why not develop the other cities? Make them places that have stuff, a couple of shopping malls and a cinema and a theatre and some stuff to do, a pool hall and stuff to do. Until you've done that, people are just going to keep coming to Kigali, and it's going to get stressful. Yeah, I don't know. I would love personally to see more infrastructure in the smaller cities, because like he's discovered, there is nothing beyond Kigali in terms of livability and workability. Like, unless you live somewhere like Bugesera, where you could technically commute into Kigali, it's difficult.
Those are the next two biggest cities, and there's a lot of activities that tourists want to do in that side of the country, right? But
it is tourism central.
To call a ride, you're only stuck negotiating with the people that you see on the streets, and so they have a monopoly, and it's not fun. On top of that, if you're trying to negotiate with people that are on the street, and those people on the street don't speak English, how do you deal with it? You see? So it makes like getting around and transportation a very big hassle if you're a tourist in the country. Okay, so
yeah, true that.
Number 3. So my girlfriend, right, who is a Ugandan, she decides that she's going to come and visit me over in Rwanda. And since I've been dating this woman, she's always been telling me, I want to taste your cooking, I want to try your cooking and everything like that. And it's not like I'm like intentionally not cooking for her. It's just like whenever I see her, it's just like one day at a time. And if it's only one day at a time, one of us is going to cook and it's going to be her. Right. And so
Why is it going to be her? Sorry, did I miss that memo? She wants to try your cooking. You see her once every now and again, and yet she's the one to cook. Why?
And if it's only one day at a time, one of us is going to cook and it's going to be her. Right. And so because she's coming to Rwanda and she's going to be there for a few weeks, I tell her, look, I'm going to allow you to taste my cooking this time around. I have been seeing this recipe on my For You page on social media for a while for banana bread. I'm like, this is what I'm going to make. Now, I also need some tools because the Airbnb I'm staying in, it has like an oven, it has, bowls and stuff like that, but it doesn't have any baking trays. And it also doesn't have, I don't have any measuring cups, no measuring spoons. And you need that, right? Baking is a science. And yes, I can bake if you guys didn't know that. So I go to the part where the baking like section is, and I'm looking for measuring cups, I'm looking for measuring spoons. I don't see it. I'm asking employees, do you like where? I'm showing them a picture because they don't speak English. Showing them a picture. Where can I get this? Uh, they don't have it. So, okay, that's weird. It must just be sold out at this location because again, this is the main.
I wish he'd say which shop it is. I'm betting he went to Simba at Kigali Heights because I think that's probably where most people go looking for a supermarket. If he'd gone to Home Supermarket in Kichikiru, he would have found everything he needed. I've covered that shop. It's like a little consumer mecca. So if you need anything for anything, go to Home Supermarket. Nowhere else really has a lot.
So, okay, that's weird. It must just be sold out at this location because again, this is the main grocery store chain. So I decided to go over to
Simba.
another Simba the next day,
Simba.
and same thing.
Mhm.
No measuring cups, no measuring spoons. I didn't even see like a scale. Like maybe they have a scale where I could just put the things on a scale and weigh it.
Home Supermarket or T2000. T2000 is cheaper, but it's not the nicest shop. Home Supermarket is a little bit more expensive, but the whole shopping experience is nicer.
Measuring spoons. I didn't even see like a scale. Like maybe they have a scale where I could just put the things on a scale and weigh it. Nothing. Now we did end up baking the cake in case you guys are wondering, and it did come out good, but we had to just like eyeball it, and it was really like the Lord was with us to make that cake come out good. All right. So my con number three about the country Rwanda though is that the country is like barren. So like there's a lot of items that even in the main grocery store, it almost feels more like a corner store bodega. Like it doesn't feel like it's fully.
Yeah, I mean, the only one I think he would go, oh, this is an actual department store, would be Home Supermarket. Now, American expectations are different. So I think you've got, British expectations are middling. American expectations are very, very high. Like in America, they have warehouses, their supermarkets, their Walmarts go on for miles. In the UK, I mean, we do have a few kind of warehouse supermarkets like Tesco. Our supermarkets can be quite big, but nowhere near the size of America. But European supermarkets like French supermarkets, I remember when I was where was I? I think I was in Lyon. I went to a gorgeous French supermarket. I could have died in there and been quite happy. There were so many nice fresh fruits and vegetables and deli products and fresh bread. Oh God, it was gorgeous. So yeah, I mean, what we class the supermarket in Rwanda is what I would class as a corner shop in the UK, or a small supermarket in the UK. We don't have big ones, and the thing is, it's just so damn hard to import things, partly because of the import taxes are colossal, partly because the transport infrastructure isn't there are no trains, so everything comes by freight over land or by plane. If it comes by plane, it's very expensive. If it comes overland by freight, it's also very expensive, but also gets trapped at places like Dar es Salaam, which is one of the large ports, or Mombasa, and if it gets delayed there, the entire stock can spoil. You can have like chocolate bars and refrigerated goods stuck in ports for a really long time. It can spoil. The supermarkets here lose out, and then on top of that there's massive tax to pay, so we don't have anything. I mean, I'm not kidding here. There have been times when milk ran out. Last week, we buy large bottles of water for the restaurant called Jibu, so it's a water supplier. We ran out of water, drinking water. There was no drinking water for delivery. Couldn't get it anywhere. How does a country run out of drinking water? So that happened. There have been months where there have been no red kidney beans, tins of red kidney beans. We ran out of baked beans the other week. Could not find baked beans in any shop I went into all week. How does a country run out of baked beans? It's like the most basic food item ever. And even things that are produced in the country. What was I looking for the other week? There was something I was looking for that is actually produced here, and we didn't have any. And it's like, but you make it here. You make it here. How do we not have any? And that happens regularly. Inyanje products like butter, milk, certain types of yogurt can just disappear off the shelves, even though we make it here. So it doesn't have to travel anywhere. And it's fascinating, just the supply chain issues. If you live here, you're just used to that. That's normal. I have to say, no drinking water was a new one for me. But walking into a shop and going, oh, there's no baked beans, or oh, there's no milk this month. It's like, it happens, So I think we don't have large supermarkets because how would you stock that? Unless, I don't know how you would stock that. You couldn't have a supermarket like you get in sort of Europe or America or the UK or I guess even Russia, China, Asia. You can't have that kind of size supermarket because you can't get the products here. They can't keep them fresh. And when you do get stuff imported, so everything imported is super expensive and everything is imported. So you go in and you're paying, like, I saw boxes of cereal on the shelf for over 20,000 francs. You're paying 10 British pounds for a box of cereal. Who's going to buy that? I don't buy that. I'd eat it, but I won't buy it. Who the hell's buying that? So this is the problem. A lot of the stuff that he wants to buy, it would be very hard to import it. And if you did import it, it would be beyond what most people could afford to pay. So that's why everybody's eyeballing it rather than using scales. But
it almost feels more like a corner store bodega. Like, it doesn't feel like it's fully stocked, right? I didn't see any name brand stores. I couldn't find a Gap. I couldn't find a...
There's one. It's called Spar. So in the UK, we know Spar. They have got a Spar here, but it is just literally, it is Sour City with the Spar logo on the front. You go in there and all the products are exactly the same as Sour City. There is no distinguishable difference at all between Sour City, which was originally here, and Spar, which has a European brand name on. They are the same shop. So yeah,
like items are just not really there. Even the expats that I talk to who live there are like, yeah, when I want to buy things, I either order it on Amazon and get it shipped to Rwanda, or I literally leave the country
to get it.
Buy my shoes,
South Africa.
Clothes, go buy all these things, and I come back in. Right?
Yeah, a lot of people go to South Africa.
Like, even when I went to the mall, I went to one of the biggest malls inside of Kigali, which is called...
That's Kigali Heights. That's not one of the biggest malls. That's the shiniest mall. That is the shiniest mall, and it's the one that all tourists know and will go to because it's right opposite Radisson Hotel. It's not the biggest mall. I think Silverback Chic Building is one of the bigger ones. Kigali City Market, but they're not really tourist friendly. They're not places that you would go and enjoy walking around. Kigali Heights is the mall that everybody knows, and it's tiny. It's absolutely tiny.
Even when I went to the mall,
it's nice.
Malls inside of Kigali, which is called I forgot the name, but I should maybe...
Kigali Heights.
I didn't see any name brand store that I recognize, which is so odd to me. So this is something to really take note of and pay attention to. Like, it's going to be hard to get items that we might deem pretty basic and pretty simple. Con number 4. Now, this is actually the number one reason I could not live in the country of Rwanda. So I'm going to tell you about the time that I got kidnapped in the country. Yes, I was kidnapped. Driver's side windows rolled down. He has his hands inside the driver's side window, holding onto the glass. The glass is here. Holding onto the glass, refusing to let my VW move, essentially the Uber driver, leave. What led up to this was this guy is trying to forcibly help me. He's trying to help me put my bags in the car. He's trying to help me hold my luggage. He's trying to help me.
And now he's going to come and ask for money. This is really, really common. I had some guy do it to me the other day, and I was so, it makes you feel basically, locals, you know where Samir Hussein, so you're in town, you've got the big Coke bottle, and there's a motorbike dealer down there called it's the TVS motorbike dealership, and I went in there to buy a spare helmet. So I'm sweating a bit. It's definitely very warm tonight. I went in there to get a spare motorbike helmet, and I came out, and it's the most irritating situation. I mean, just parking in Kigali is just what it is anyway, but to get out of TVS, there's a pole, a red and white pole that they use as a barrier. If you're on a motorbike, they try to make you go up this tiny broken bit of pathway to get out, and I refuse to do it. One, because my bike is big. Two, because my bike is heavy. If it goes over, it's going to be bloody painful and hard to get up again. And three, because that same tiny gap is where the pedestrians come down. So in order to get out, I got to play chicken with pedestrians, and I'm not going to do that. So I drove up to the pole. If you're in a car, they will automatically open it. But then this guy, he like hesitated and looked at me, and he comes up and he opens it. And as I'm driving out, he just went, "Give me money." And I was like, let's just hit the accelerator, shall we? And I zoomed off. It's like I'm teetering there on my bike, trying to get up this sort of ramp, and you want me to stop my bike, go through my bag, find you some money and give it to you for opening a barrier that should have been opened anyway for anybody who was trying to exit the car park. And it is just like, oh my goodness, you know. I know that things are desperate. I do understand things are desperate, but you get it everywhere for everything. And it kind of grinds you down on the day to day. Yeah, let's see if that's where this is going. I feel like it might be, because I've had this at Kimidonko. You know, people will come up and they will forcibly take the bag out of your hand and then demand that you give them money. I'm quite forceful with people. If they come at me and start to invade my space or try to grab things off me, I'm pretty direct about, you know, back up. But I think if you're a tourist, you're not so quick to correct people in that way. You know, you're trying to be, you know, shiny and happy with people all the time. So let's see what happens.
The whole time I'm telling him, no, I don't want your help. Please stop it. I'm not accepting your service. I refuse every service you try to offer.
Yeah.
I refuse it. He's now kidnapping me, right? The VW Move driver is on his side. He's like, pay him. Pay the guy money.
What?
Says you owe money. I don't know. I get out the car because I'm pissed off, because now I'm trying to go home and you're refusing to let me go home. I get out the car, I'm yelling at him. Yo, get out the car, blah, 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 blah. I'm yelling at him, right?
Whoa.
Going back and forth, tweaking. 15 people who he worked at the bus stop, supposedly. 15 other people who work at the bus stop come around and are on his side. So now we got 15 people plus him, plus the video.
Whoa.
You need to pay him money. I started talking.
That's the second time that we've heard about somebody being mobbed. Like we did a video a little while ago about a woman who got mobbed at Nyamirambo market. To be fair, she was filming and she shouldn't have been. And, you know, people came at her because she was filming. This guy, they came at him for money. It's interesting, this kind of mobbing. Yeah, you didn't used to hear so much about. So this is the second quite powerful incident that somebody's mentioned. Both Americans, but I don't think that has anything to do with it, but it's interesting.
15 people plus him, plus the video Move driver trying to get me to pay him money. I started talking nicely, it didn't work. I started yelling, that didn't work, because the people in the crowd are like, just pay him, just pay him.
Raising your voice doesn't help.
All right, so y'all really want me to turn up. So now I'm jumping up and down like, let's do it. You want your money? Basically show me how bad you want your money. Come give me a physical altercation, and I'll give you a good payment. When I got to that point of like, I want physical violence to incur because you're disrespecting me as a man, there was at least 3 people in the crowd that had sense and decided to take the guy and walk him off. But this is maybe a 15 to 20 minute incident. They tried to extort me for money. Eventually, they take him and they walk him off. But this brings me on to my con number 4, which is the drunkard class of Rwanda is very aggressive.
Yes.
Alcoholism is a very big problem in the country of Rwanda, like a super big problem. I'll put on this.
Yeah, but not quite as bad as Uganda. That's the only claim to fame. We're not as bad as Uganda. I think Uganda has the highest alcohol problem in definitely East Africa, I think Africa. Have to check the statistics on that one. But whatever happens, at least we can say we're not as bad as Uganda.
And I didn't have just one incident like this. I had like three where people that were, I would assume, under influence based off of their demeanor, based off of their mannerism, based off of their delayed responses, were trying to extract money from me, and they did it in a way that I would consider aggressive. One time, somebody even grabbed my arm and tried to prevent me from walking. As somebody who's a tourist, as somebody who's a visitor, I didn't like that experience whatsoever. It was to the point where I didn't even know if I was going to be able to leave Rwanda without a physical altercation. Con number 5.
I had that in Morocco though. I don't think I ever told the story. When I was in, where was I? I think I was in Fez, and I came back from seeing this tourist site, Chefchaouen, which is this blue city, and I got back very, very late at night, and I got taken for a ride. Basically, I got conned into going down some very dark alleys late at night, and this man was with me, and I never told this story. I'll tell it properly in another video, but this man got a little bit too close for comfort and was sort of getting a bit in my face. And I'm not a small person. I'm about 5 foot, what am I, 5'8"? And I'm quite well built. And yeah, generally, you know, if somebody comes up in my face like that, I know it's the wrong move to make, but my instinct reaction is to push straight up into them like that. You know, it's like if they come at me, I come at them. And he was a slightly shorter man than me, which doesn't mean anything because I have been in altercations before with shorter people and not come out better for it. But you know, he was shocked. Firstly, I think because I was a woman. Secondly, because I was a foreigner. You know, and I think he was a bit shocked that I came up at him and I literally locked eyes and I was very, very direct about get out of my face. And so, yeah, that kind of confrontation, I know what he means about almost wanting it to get physical in a way, because then you break the tension, because the tension is the not knowing. It's not knowing what this person is or is not about to do. And at least if they make an aggressive physical move, then you know exactly where you stand. Which is not something you want to encourage in any way, shape or form, but I understand his way of thinking, because I'm a bit like that. It's like if somebody comes at me, I'm going to force the situation a little just to see how they react. And like I say, in the past, that doesn't always mean that you turn out okay for that. I'll tell that story another time as well. But basically, I get what he's saying, and the aggression, what I'm saying though is that the aggression, I came across that in Morocco and in the UK. I haven't come across a physical altercation like that in Rwanda. Nobody's come up in my face in that way in Rwanda. But clearly has with him and did with the woman before at Nyamirambo market. So I don't know if the aggression's on the rise. I think the cost of living is really just driving people down at the moment. People are getting desperate. The unemployment is through the roof. The wealth gap is just out of control, seriously out of control. The way that Kigali is changing at the moment is just becoming like you used to see the sky. Like if you used to stand next to the central mosque in town and you look up, you could see the sky. Now it's these big crunchy like skyscrapers that are kind of crowding in, blocking out the sun. It's starting to feel a bit, everybody's on top of each other all of the time at the moment, and I think people are just starting to feel a bit stressed. And I think that's leading to more aggression. Like I said, definitely there's been a lot of discussions online about the alcohol issue at the moment. And so the government is really cracking down on alcohol and sort of trying to push the price of it up so fewer people can just afford to get really drunk in the evenings, and to try to combat that. But I think I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to say I think they've missed the point. You can't just ban something and expect the problem to go away if you don't tackle the underlying root of it. And the underlying root of it is, I'm going to say it, I think people are bored. I think people are bored. There are no affordable fun things to do. It's like we've got kids out there playing on the street. People are annoyed because there are balls in the garden every day. They're hitting people's cars. People are getting a little bit frustrated with it, but they have nowhere to go. There's no park, there's no playing field, there's no like kids local football group. Where can they go and play? They can't. I mentioned cinemas, theatres, like there is nothing to, the only thing that there is to do is there is a bar or 5 on every single street. And I shouldn't complain because I also run a bar, but we are everywhere, and a lot of them, we are everywhere, and telling people just not to drink when there is nothing else to do and nothing affordable or fun to do affordably, it doesn't solve the problem. People drink because they're bored or they're stressed or they're upset. It's kind of like it's a symptom of an underlying mental health situation, and you see the same thing happen in every single country. Is every single country where people are unemployed, they feel like they don't have much purpose, they feel like there isn't a better tomorrow than there is today, they feel like, what's the point in trying because am I going to get anywhere? I mean, a lot of it as well can be sort of alcoholism, which is a disease which needs treatment because people can't find their way out of that on their own. But a lot of people drink recreationally and drink to excess recreationally because what else is there to do? I hate to put it that way, but I just think, you need, as a capital city, to have fun things to do, affordable or free things for people to do, and where are those things? It's you want people to stop doing one thing, you have to present them with something else they could do, and not this obsessive continuous pushing of sports. Like there's this thing here, it's like there are a lot of sports facilities now and that's fantastic, but not all kids are into sports, not all adults are into sports. I don't want to go play football on the weekend, I don't even really want to walk around the golf course. What I want to do, maybe if there are things like video games or arcades or something that brings kids together or people together for a social purpose that is fun and entertaining and doesn't involve running, that to me would be fun, or basketball or cycling. People who want to do sports, that's great. People who don't want to do sports, what is there? There's no art scene, there's no kind of, I think we really need to focus on that. You can't just take something away and not provide any other alternative thing to do. So I don't know, that's just my 2 cents on it. I think people are just feeling very run down, and alcohol is easy, cheap and available, and that's why we do it. But if we don't have that, there needs to be something else.
Con number 5, okay? So every country that I go to, I always like to do a grocery shopping tour where I take people around the store and tell them like what items cost.
I've done that. You can see I've done a video about going around grocery shops in Kigali. I've also done one about online grocery shopping. I'll leave those links below if you need that information or you're curious.
Grocery shopping tour where I take people around the store and tell them like what items cost and what items are available. And most of the times people are always blown away by the quality of the items plus the low cost of the items. But Rwanda was the only country that I went to where I got responses like this. Thanks for this video. The prices are so high, higher than Canada for most of the items. Or somebody else said, the prices seem ridiculous.
Yeah, but a lot of the items probably came from Canada, or if not Canada, somewhere equally as far away. And the cost of getting the items over land is often the same or more than getting them to the port overseas to begin with. So first you've got to ship it to Dar or Mombasa, then you've got to freight it overland to Central Africa. Or small amounts can come by a plane, but only small amounts. So yeah, we don't manufacture here, we have to import. Everything is imported, that's foreign stuff, and everything foreign is expensive. That's the way it is. And then you've got massive taxes on top of that. I mean, to be fair, if you cross over into actually I was talking to my friend from Cameroon the other day, and he said, I asked him, what are the supermarkets like there? And he said they are packed. You can get anything there. So it's not all about the supply chain. It's also about, taxation. Even in DRC, cross over the border, Goma, Bukavu, their shops are better stocked than they are here most of the time. You can find interesting things there. And again, I think it's not just about transport, it's also about how things are taxed. You'd have to be a bit mental to go into the supermarket business here, because it's a very, very, very small marketplace, because most people can't afford to shop in a supermarket. They haven't got that kind of money. Again, taxation. And so the number of people who can afford to shop in supermarkets is very, very low, and we've already oversaturated that market with Sawa City, Simba, those two. I'm sure there are others, but the market is saturated for the number of people who can afford to shop in them.
Another commenter wrote, surprisingly, these are American prices. So con number 5 is that Rwanda can be quite expensive. Now, here's what I can say. In reality, I didn't feel the cost of Rwanda so much. Like it didn't feel like I was being gutted every time I paid for something.
Yeah, people coming from Kenya seem to think it's a bit cheaper here. People coming from, my friend from Cameroon, seem to think the prices are okay here. I think the problem comes in when you are earning in Rwandan francs. Because when you are earning in Rwandan francs and paying for things in Rwandan francs, you are squeezed. You are squeezed. Things seem a lot more expensive at that point.
The problem is, because Rwanda is a very landlocked country, it has to cross through many borders before it gets into Rwanda, and every border it crosses is more fuel, more taxes that are added to it, right? Because most things come in from the port. And then number 2, when you kind of combine that with one of the earlier cons about there not being so many items in the country, right? It can be a little bit barren. That's when you really start to see the cost, when you need a particular specific item that you can't find in the country, so you got to import it. Or they do have an item in the country, but it's ridiculously expensive compared to what we're used to paying, to be fair. But it is also a lot nicer to me than both Kenya and Rwanda, just as far as infrastructure is concerned. It's way cleaner than Kenya. It's way more developed than Uganda. So the price I don't mind paying, but it can be expensive, and you should know that. Okay, now I do want to go ahead and try to give you guys at least 1 or 2 pros about the country, so that way it wasn't just a negative video bashing the country of Rwanda, because that wasn't the intention. Let me give you guys some pros that you may not have heard about. So pro number 1 that I want to talk about is, I told you guys, I had a guest with me in the country, and this was their first time really leaving Uganda and going to an international country. And I wanted to make sure they had a good time, and they went back with some stories to tell. Now, I'm not a big party person. We also don't like drinking and clubs and everything like that. So I wanted to find a fun activity for us to do that was a bit more wholesome. So all I did was go on Google and I typed in fun things to do near me. And it turns out there was an arcade about 30 minutes up the road if you were to walk. So we ended up going to the arcade on a random Wednesday night.
Where the hell is this? Where is this, and why have I never seen it advertised? Oh, is this in BC? Kigali Business Centre, KBC.
And we had the most fun time ever.
When was that?
3 months since that trip. And that person still always tells me about how much fun they had at the arcade. And so pro number 1 is there's a lot of family-friendly activities to do in Rwanda. See, right now I'm in Uganda, right? There's not a single arcade in this country. Not a single one. There's not a single bowling alley in this country.
We used to have a bowling alley at Mamba Club, but I don't think it's there anymore.
In this country. Not a single one. There's not a single bowling alley in this country. Not a single one. And so
yeah, but come on, in Kampala you do have this huge arts centre. I remember going to the Amakula festival, the film festival in Kampala years and years ago, and you've got this huge exhibition centre. There's loads of stuff going on in Kampala. I imagine out in the suburbs it's probably a bit like Rwanda, is there isn't much to do, but I mean, yeah, I don't know.
And so the fact that they have those types of things over in Rwanda,
we'd say we don't. No theatre, National Theatre, no cinema. We don't have the bowling alley anymore, I don't think. The arcade, that is the first time I've ever heard of that. I have no idea where it is. I wish he'd said. There's that Fazenda Senga, which is this place where kids can go horse riding and do archery and things. So we have that. But I would be hard pressed to name a lot of stuff. I mean, always people are going, you know, what can I do with my kids? Where can I take them? Usually what people do is go down to a restaurant, and there's often like kids entertainers at restaurants on weekends. I don't know that we've got that much to do.
Have in a place like Uganda. And so the fact that they have those types of things over in Rwanda is beautiful. They have like nature hiking, they have volcanoes, they have hot springs. We went to hot springs. Or we were
Yeah, but that's like natural features. It's not really something that was provided to the public as sort of like a, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. I mean, those are natural. I mean, you can go hiking in Uganda. You can go see the gorillas there. You can go. Is it Queen Elizabeth is in Uganda, isn't it? Yeah. So I don't know. In Kenya, they've got like the national park. You can go hiking and horse riding there. So yeah, I mean, I think every country's got nice natural things to go and see and look at.
the fact that they have those types of things over in Rwanda is beautiful. They have like nature hiking, they have volcanoes, they have hot springs. We went to hot springs while we were there. Like I said, arcades, gaming centers, right? They have a lot of things that you can do with your friends or with your family that doesn't involve having to get drunk or having to go to a club. All right, but that's my.
I would say we don't have a lot of things that don't involve, you know, going to a bar. That's what I was saying before. I mean, he went to an arcade. I name a few more, you know, name something else, because I'm struggling. I'm really struggling. And to find things that are affordable as well. Yeah, I don't know. I'm struggling to think of a lot of things. Let me know below. Tell me below, like, if you're not going to a bar, you don't want to go, you know, to a bar or a restaurant, where else can you go? What do you do? What do you enjoy doing, and where do you go? Because I'm quite curious to go and check these out. Oh, Mundi Centre. Mundi Centre had an axe throwing thing at one point, and there's a pool hall at Mundi Centre. Yeah. I'm struggling beyond that.
Pro number 2. So there was a restaurant that I wanted to go to, and it was pretty close to where I was at, but it would have been like maybe a 12-minute drive to get there. However, the problem was it was nestled inside of a residential area, and there was no landmarks around for me to kind of show one of the boater drivers, like, do you know this place? And so instead of trying to fight and deal with the boater driver who doesn't speak English, and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to walk to this location. It was like a 30-minute walk. So let me test it out. Let me see. I ended up walking that 30 minutes. However, it felt like it was like 15 minutes. Every sidewalk in Kigali is paved. There's so many times, there's points where you're like really high up and you can overlook a whole bunch of the city. There's times when you're low down in the valley and you look up and there's just beautiful houses everywhere. Like, Kigali is, this brings it up to my pro number 2, right? Which is Kigali is a very walkable city. Like, so walkable that I honestly I would say I walk at least an hour a day in Kigali, going to a destination 30 minutes, coming back from a destination 30 minutes, 20-minute walks here, 20 minutes walk back. Like, it's the only African country that I've been in, besides maybe South Africa, where I felt like walking was safe, walking was comfortable, where you actually, there's they call them zebra crossings, but we call them crosswalks where we're from, where when you walk in a crosswalk, people actually stop their car.
No, they don't. Sorry, I was with him up until that point. I was right. I was nodding along there. I was going, yeah, Rwanda is a very, very walkable city. It's a very beautiful city. It's also safe to walk around as a woman, even after dark, on the main streets. I've never had a problem. Yeah, it's a very walkable city. It's a very beautiful city. He lost me when we got to its you know, cars stop at the pedestrian crossings. I'm going to cover this. I'm probably going to do a road safety video at some point, but be careful with that one, because one person might stop, and the number of times I've seen this, somebody stops and a pedestrian steps out and whoomph, another car goes straight past them and misses them by that much. Some people stop, a lot of people don't. Do not make the mistake of assuming that pedestrian crossings here are following the rules of the road. No, you can get halfway across the pedestrian crossing and then have to wait for 5 minutes for the rest of the traffic to stop. People, don't stop.
Uganda, you try to do that stuff there in Kenya, boy. You're gonna have a hospital bill because people do not stop, they do not care.
I would somebody actually drive into me on a pedestrian crossing. When they first came in, I was walking across one, and the guy, he slowed down, he stopped, and then he took his foot off the brake and he rolled into me as I was walking across the pedestrian crossing. I was so calm. I like looked at him, I gave him the stink eye, and I was like, what are you doing? When, I came that close to thumping my fist down on the bonnet and giving him a permanent reminder not to do that. But it was hilarious. He stopped and then he just rolled straight into me. It's like, okay.
Now, if you made it to this part of the video, it's possible that Rwanda is the right country for you. However, is it the right time? I talked about why and who should not be moving to Africa in 2026. Check out that video. It's on your screen right now.
Interesting.
Well, that was entertaining. I actually really enjoyed that video. Yeah, I relate to a lot of what he's saying. I don't think there's any one thing in there that stood out more than the others. They're things that I've talked a lot about in other videos. I really would like to know where that arcade was. Like, let me know if you know. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, a lot of internationals, one of their biggest complaints is it's kind of boring. It's like, tourists, it's amazing. You come, you go to see the gorillas, maybe like Nyanza, maybe a couple of other places, and you leave. You're here for maybe a week and then you go. So you don't have enough time to get bored, and you're here to do something specific, like spend $1,500 on a gorilla. So you've got something to focus on and go and do. But when you live here, it is literally bars. It is bars. And I don't have a problem with bars, because I like bars and I like drinking, except if they're loud, like late at night. That's when I have a problem with bars. But I have nothing against bar life, and especially in a country on a continent where the demographic is traditionally much younger than in the West. A lot of young people in their early 30s, mid 30s, going out, having a drink, having a good time. No problem with that. I just wish there were other things to do, especially for a capital city. There's just, what is there? I don't know, if you have stuff you do, let me know below. But I do know a lot of people, especially people who move here, they're fine with young kids. It's a really safe, very easy place to raise very young kids. But then when they hit their teenage years, that's when most expats leave again, because when kids get to their tweens and their teens, they want to go out and do stuff and be kind of semi-independent and have some fun things to go and do with friends, and there just isn't. I don't know what to say. So yeah, I do think we need to work on that, because I don't know. I'm going to stop going on, but I think a lot of what he said, very fair. But what he said about it being a walkable city, very beautiful city, is very, very true. Do not put your faith in the pedestrian crossings. You could learn a very painful lesson if you do. But yes, we have them at least. And, a lot of people do make some effort to stop. So we're getting there slowly, but driving is an ongoing situation. Okay, right, well, let me know what you thought of everything you said. I thought that was a really fun video. I was a bit nervous going in that it was going to be like who was that woman? Was that the American lady who she complained continuously about absolutely everything in a really kind of way? We did a video about that a long time ago, but this I thought was quite a fun and a very accurate assessment. So yeah, all right, well, see you in the next one.